Something else that matters. My name is Mad Dog, and welcome back to the What If Fnaf Collabed with fast food convenience or other type of venues series. Last episode, we did KFC combined with Fredbear and Friends Family Diner, along with a bit of a special event for like the Nightmare event with the special food combinations of licorice, which I gotta say, that was probably one of the most interesting things I ever pretty much come up with, especially when it comes to food. And now we're going to be just talking about another iconic food area that a lot of people know and love the most. One place that specifically also completes into the areas of the world of burgers. That's right. Today we're going to be talking about Hungry Jack's, or if some people actually call the American version, Burger King. I rather stick to prefer the Hungry Jack's. Now, this was a very interesting thought of mine, and I actually did come up with this written down years ago. Now, like I said before, since like in the very first episode when I did the McDonald's one, having the Hoax purple guy specifically, which was basically a fan-made created animatronic that was probably edited just somewhere into the game using Adobe Editor or whatever. Well, I'm pretty much going to be going full-on fan-made Five Nights at Freddy's game characters specifically on this type of, for this video. Because if I'm being completely honest, no other technical canon FNAF character actually pretty much works when it comes to the world of the canon world of FNAF. But only one specific fan-made Five Nights at Freddy's fan game can actually be able to pull this off. Now, again, these are 100% just my ideas and opinions. This was straight up fan-made over those years when I came up with this idea. This, I don't think, would probably be confirmed, but I'm gonna say it out anyways. There is only one FNAF fan-made character that is only associated with burgers and also has a burgeria joint. That's right, I'm talking about the one and only Kit Kat himself, Candy the Cat from Five Nights at Candy's, created by Emil Mako, which was actually one of the very first and early developed Five Nights at Freddy's fan games back in 2015. Now, this actually pretty much goes well into expectations because, one, what is the food that is associated with candy specifically? As I said already, burgers. And guess what? They also have a little burger mascot, which basically is in replacement of the cupcake burger that Chica usually always carries. Now, the only thing that I actually had a really just hard time in just thinking about, how can I actually use the characters for all of this? Well, Candy was a bit of an interesting choice. I was never really going to actually pick Candy himself in the mix. Not even as the main face of freaking Hungry Jack's. But, to be fair, the only way that you could possibly do that is to pretty much change the color of the basic red into blue, if I'm being completely honest with you. That's basically the one and only chance that you can actually, pretty much have the represented face of Candy the Cat, the one who also pretty much serves burgers around the place in the Five Nights at Freddy's fanverse. But realistically here speaking, would that really do any good in particular? I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I don't really necessarily think so. I was thinking about putting Old Candy in there, but he's more like of a side character, if anything. He kind of acts like Golden Freddy, but not really. Well, the original Candy himself is also pretty much the fame version of to be able to just produce and also be able to promote burgers for his place, with also changing the color of the Hungry Jack's signages and also place itself just to all incredibly blue. Well, yes, but would that really be appealing to many people? Kind of looks sad. I guess that's the real definition of what happens when you're actually all feeling blue. The only one character that I actually did like the most, but is more also of a side character as well, apart from just Old Candy being a side character, Vinny the Sad Puppet also being a side character to being just an extra mascot for the thing. And while I have some other mascots as well, I'll just say them to you now. Cindy would actually be a really perfect choice because guess what? She also is the one that holds the burger mascot on her plate. Kind of exactly the same thing that every single Chica does when holding a cupcake. This makes it a little bit more appealing to me, to be very honest with you, and I feel like this actually makes it very much like, the best choice. Like, maybe Cindy could probably be, like, the main face of, like, of Hungry Jack's. Just maybe just changing it a bit of the shade of red into pink. Maybe no if you don't have to, if you don't want, but it's still pretty much a cooler way to actually bring out the good concept design. Rather than just having to have like the blue candy cat himself, having Cindy is probably like a really good face of the entire franchise. Just for this specific event of collaboration, if it were to necessarily happen. Which obviously, I highly doubt that's going to happen, but it's a pretty cool concept. And of course, as for the others, like I said, Vinny and Old Candy could be just side characters for this one as well, just an extra. Along with Penguin, for example. A lot of kids could probably love the Penguin a lot. The Penguin animatronic is pretty cute. Blank would also be a good choice as well. As you know, Blank is basically this animatronic who basically is just nothing but, well, blank. He's like a white sheet of paper. Which would also be really good for kids to actually draw on, because guess what? That's what the lore actually states in the game of Five Nights at Candy's. Just make sure that he's just not active. Just make him into like just a standstill statue or dummy or whatever, and just make him look like he's just sitting still without having to move. This way, a lot of kids would just have a lot to collaborate, to just, interact with this interesting little fella that could basically, they could just draw all over him with a lot of sketches and doodles on this guy. It's kind of funny when I actually think about it, because, that'll make a lot of sense, and a lot of kids would actually have him in the play area just to, just have him sitting there, literally as they just doodle on him as much as they want. Or just write messages or sentences. Like, that'd be kind of funny. Minty, who would be a really good character as well, which was also specifically in Five Nights at Candy's 3 when collecting all the minigames and completing them, is also a very good character. At least he's kind of like almost the same size as Penguin, at least I think, realistically. He's technically like the Balloon Boy version of the Candy's world, really. Instead of just balloons, it's basically old lollipops. And that could also be a really good taste, and also a very good advocate in promotion to, the kids all again, and also, demonstrating sweets, promoting sweets to kids. As you all know, that kids all love sweet stuff. Even just have regular Chubba Chubs or something like that, regular looking like lollipops even, that would probably be pretty cool. And just also for just a bit of, humor into this, I decided to put Minty, which, if you don't know who this character is, Minty is this character from Five Nights at Candy's World, The Adventure, which this game was a long time ago, and I don't think the game was ever finished. There was nothing more but just a demo. Nothing else was put into it except that. Minty, in that world, specifically is Candy's so-called brother, I guess? It's kind of funny. And I guess that makes sense, because he looks green, because mint is green as well. And I feel like, to be fair, that's actually not a bad idea. Having a mint-flavored burger, maybe for instances, could not be such a bad idea, if, in my opinion, could actually work, if anyone likes to have that minty yet / meaty flavor, having that mixed together in a burger. Not that quite sure if anyone actually does that, but let me know that in the comments below. Now, kind of similar what I did when it came to when it comes to Kentucky Fried Chicken and Fredbear Friends Family Diner from last episode, is that I used beetroot for specifically with the burgers. Well, I'm pretty much letting the exact same idea happen with this Five Nights at Candy's with collaborating with Hungry Jack's. Because it's that Cindy is kind of like, well, more like of a pink cat rather than a purple cat rather than pink. Well, you could probably actually add a bit of beetroot to the burgers as well. At least get that nice sweet tangy flavor like I mentioned earlier from the last episode. Having a combo with freaking mint, maybe even alongside with the beetroot burger? Hey, I mean, sure, that's actually not a bad idea. Anything that is basically like related to the blue area, such as Old Candy or Vinny the Sad Puppet in particular, well, the only other idea that I could specifically think of was to go with this sort of scenario. Who's ever heard of blue potatoes? Well, they may not look exactly blue, but blue potatoes could actually work as for like blue potato fries. Kind of like sweet potatoes, for example. You ever had those sweet potatoes that are basically orange? They're very nice. They're very sweet too, actually, when you think about when you have that taste, and it's very crispy on that, and the taste. Trust me when I tell you, it is pretty good. So I guess having Hungry Jack's having like blue potato chips is kind of interesting, but regardless, I feel like it's not a bad idea. And if anything, they could probably actually will have like some of the blue, like the skin of the of the potato and just, I don't know, see how that really goes, if that's even capable. No food dye is required, okay? That's the one thing that we do not need right now. I don't think that food dye is necessary for this scenario. Speaking of food dyes, however, of course, like I did similar to some of the desserts back then for the McDonald's one, like how Bonnie had this milkshake or like decorative food dyes for like this ice cream sundae, the same thing could go for like to bring out a Vinny themed or old candy themed dessert. Having just like a blueberry or bubblegum kind of flavored sundae or milkshake, or even a slushie, for example, that could probably actually bring out the nice blue flavors while still having that blue side of the original Candy Cat himself in the mix. Those are pretty very simple things and ideas that I pretty much came up with. And if you want to go with a bit more of a classy kind of dessert, I don't know if they're going to do this either, but like, go ahead if you want to try. Not that I'm saying that it will happen. Maybe like a blueberry milkshake or something like that, or maybe like a blueberry cheesecake, or maybe like a blueberry brownies or something like that. Blueberry macarons? That could work. Just to at least bring out the actual blue Candy Cat himself to still be thinking that, you know, he's still remembered and and just to be reminded that he is still the face of the franchise of Candy's Burgers. But though in this case, it's just basically he's just not really around and he's just, well, he's not here. I know I'm dissing the original Candy a lot here, but like, come on guys, like, really think realistically here. This is why I'm saying that Cindy is probably better at the job with this one rather than Candy himself. Just replacing everything with Boo is not exactly going to be the best scenario here. So I am trying to think realistically here in this case scenario for this video. I mean, you don't have to really like that part of the idea. If you don't want to, that's fine by me. But let's be real. That's what I'm thinking right now. It is just my opinion, I have to know. You can let me know that. You can just say your thoughts in the comments down below. And regardless, in general, what do you actually really do think about this whole thing in general even? Do you think that, you know, Five Nights at Candy's collaborating with Hungry Jack specifically is actually a good idea? Or am I actually way off with this one? This one had to be very interesting. It's kind of like, it was kind of like my favorite idea at this time, which I kind of do feel like it still is. But yeah, there really isn't really much to be able to add on to this because, you know, they are fan-made characters after all, and they're not exactly, you know, official FNAF characters really. Even though technically speaking, they were probably going to be part of it at some point in time, like that they were originally called Sugar the Cat, I guess in some sense. But all of the ideas changed, and that's when Candy was born, really. But again, let me know in the comments below if you think if this is a pretty good idea, or am I just way out? Please, if you haven't liked it already, please like and subscribe. Click on the notification bell to never miss a video. And stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, my name is Mad Dog, and may your days be mad and rad!